The account recorded in Acts of the Apostles 26, verse 12 to 32, presents a decisive moment in the testimony of Paul the Apostle as he stands before King Agrippa II and Porcius Festus. What unfolds is not merely a defense against accusations, but a declaration of divine initiative, an unveiling of what God has accomplished through the risen Christ, and how that accomplishment redefines covenant identity, righteousness, and inheritance. Paul recounts his journey to Damascus under authority from the chief priests, a representative of the Old Covenant order operating in its final phase. His zeal, though sincere, was directed against the very fulfillment of the scriptures he believed he was defending. At midday, a light brighter than the sun surrounded him, and he fell to the ground, hearing the voice that identified itself as Jesus. This moment is not merely a personal turning point. It is an apocalyptic unveiling, an uncovering of the one who embodies the culmination of the law and the prophets. The voice declares, "I am Jesus whom you are persecuting." In this statement, the union between Christ and his people is revealed. To oppose those who belong to him is to oppose him directly, for they are inseparably joined to him. This union is not achieved through human effort, but is established by divine action. The persecutor is confronted, not with condemnation, but with revelation. Paul is then told to rise and stand on his feet, for he has been appointed as a servant and witness. The commission is grounded entirely in what has been revealed, not in what Paul has achieved. He is chosen to bear witness to both what he has seen and what will yet be shown to him. This calling underscores that the initiative belongs wholly to God. The messenger is formed by revelation, not by qualification. The purpose of this commission is clearly stated: to open their eyes, to turn them from darkness to light, and from the authority of Satan to God, so that they may receive forgiveness of sins and an inheritance among those who are sanctified by faith in Christ. Each element of this declaration speaks of a completed reality inaugurated through the work of Christ. The opening of eyes is not dependent upon human striving, but upon divine illumination. The turning from darkness to light is not a gradual moral ascent, but a decisive intikal brought about by the revelation of Christ himself. The transfer from one dominion to another is not achieved by human effort, but is effected through the authority of the risen Lord. Forgiveness is presented not as a future possibility, but as a present possession. It is granted, not earned. The inheritance is likewise not something awaited through performance, but received through identification with Christ. Sanctification here is not a process of progressive improvement, but a state established by faith, set apart in him, sharing in his standing before God. Paul declares that he was not disobedient to the heavenly vision, but proclaimed this message first in Damascus, then in Jerusalem, throughout Judea, and to the Gentiles. His message centered on a turning, a change of mind that corresponds with deeds, not as a means of securing acceptance, but as the evidence of a transformed understanding rooted in revelation. It is for this reason that the Jews seized him in the temple and attempted to kill him. The message he proclaimed signified the end of the Old Covenant framework as the basis for righteousness and access to God. Yet Paul insists that he says nothing beyond what Moses and the prophets declared would happen: that the Christ would suffer, that he would be the first to rise from the dead, and that he would proclaim light both to the Jewish people and to the Gentiles. The resurrection stands at the center of this testimony. It is not merely an event, but the decisive vindication of Christ and the inauguration of a new creation reality. In him, the promises have reached their fulfillment. The hope of Israel is not deferred. It has been realized. At this point, Festus interrupts, declaring that Paul is out of his mind. The message of fulfillment often appears as madness to those still bound within the old framework. Yet Paul responds with clarity and sobriety, appealing to Agrippa, who is familiar with the prophets. The appeal is not to speculation, but to what has been openly manifested. This was not done in a corner. Paul then asks Agrippa directly if he believes the prophets, asserting confidence that he does. Agrippa's response, "In a short time would you persuade me to become a Christian?" reveals the tension between acknowledgement and full persuasion. Paul's reply expresses a desire that all who hear him might become as he is, except for his chains, sharing in the same freedom and standing that he has received in Christ. The scene concludes with Agrippa, Festus, and the others acknowledging that Paul has done nothing deserving death or imprisonment. Agrippa notes that he could have been set free if he had not appealed to Caesar. Yet even this outcome serves the greater purpose of bearing witness before rulers, as had been determined. This passage reveals a transition from shadow to substance, from anticipation to fulfillment. The message Paul proclaims is not centered on human effort to attain righteousness, but on the completed work of Christ as the basis for forgiveness, inheritance, and identity. It is a proclamation of what has been accomplished, unveiled through revelation, and declared openly to all.